Welcome back to another episode of The Two Types of People. I am your host, Pat Sitkins, and today I have one of the top patent and trademark attorneys in the country, a champion adventure racer, and the winner of Amazing Race 1. That's right, the season 1 winner, very first ever, Mr. Brennan Swain. Brennan, thank you for coming on the show.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, this is pretty appropriate as we were talking off camera before we got going, and you won this thing almost 25 years ago after 35,000 miles crossing the globe. And I know the show is obviously in its longevity and very, very popular across the world. But for those who don't know, why don't we go ahead and tell them what the Amazing Race is?
Sure. So, it's interesting because when I was on the show and I would mention it to people, it was so brand new. People would be like, well, what is that? Nowadays, most people have at least heard of the Amazing Race, but they might not know what the actual concept is. Obviously, people at least know it's reality television. So what the premise is taking two people who know each other really well, whether it's a husband and wife, mother and daughter, best friends, coworkers, and putting them into a stressful travel situation and seeing how their relationship holds up. That's the real premise of the show. The backdrop to that, of course, is a race around the world that's in several legs. Every leg is an episode. It's reality TV, so a competition show, so someone's got to go home. So at the end of almost every leg, somebody gets eliminated. It's the last to arrive. And probably the easiest way to describe it is it's like a scavenger hunt around the world. You have clues. You've got to figure out how to get to the next location. And the coolest thing about it is, at least for the early seasons, I know there have been some changes recently, but it literally is a race around the world. Our season started in New York City, traversed the globe, and finished in New York City. So it's quite an adventure, quite an experience.
That is incredible. And to see it continue on and get as big as it's gotten, and I think back to the early days, and, reality TV was certainly just kicking off. You had the MTV stuff. But then all of a sudden, this new kind of era came around where you had Amazing Race, you had Survivor, and you had Big Brother, where they weren't necessarily just trapped in a house. It was competition and other things happening. So to see what was happening, I mean, what got you interested in this? Because it's not like you had 25 years to go, hey, one day I'm going to do that. It was completely brand new.
Yeah, it was really just a thing. I live in LA, and it was kind of a who you know kind of thing. I just happened to be friends with a girl who had helped cast the first couple seasons of Survivor. I think when Amazing Race started casting Survivor 1 had just aired. Then they're like, all right, this reality television thing for CBS, it's making us some money. Let's try another concept. They picked up the Amazing Race, and she gave me a call, and she said, you and Rob, my teammate on the show, we're both lawyers. He was my roommate at the time, my best friend, still is 25 years later. And she said, I think you guys would be great for this. Can you send me in a tape? It was a VHS tape back in those days. So we still had to jump through all the hoops. She was just, I guess, what you call a casting associate. And my buddy and I, we had both been kind of the typical high school, straight to college, straight to law school. And we were both working at the same law firm, but kind of had a little bit of a sense of adventure. And once we learned about what the show was and what we would be, what we'd be experiencing, we just knew it was traveling around the world. We didn't have any idea what it was going to be at the time, but we decided to submit a tape. And we literally did it at the last minute. In fact, she had let us know about it. We talked about it. And then I got a call from her the day before the tapes were due, and she said, hey, we haven't gotten anything from you. Got home from work that day, talked to my buddy, and I said to him, hey, we might as well at least try. We're probably not going to get cast on this thing, but if we see it on TV someday, we're going to think, what if? So let's do it.
That's awesome. And it's, I think about this whole, again, just the evolution of it, and to go out there into something completely unknown, to go into situations, because there's no blueprint for what you guys are doing. I mean, you were literally the guinea pigs. And so I'm sure you've gotten a lot of kind of the general questions. What was, the greatest thing, your favorite moment, and all that stuff. So I'll let people go out and find those. I do want to ask you something, though, because I think for someone that's considering it, right? Because there's a lot of options now, and not just on network. There's a lot of ways to get into the industry, and Alex Boylan and I talked about it, which we'll get to in a second. But someone that's considering getting into reality TV, something big like this, what is something that is rarely talked about that you wish you would have known going into it?
Um, I think, and honestly, this is maybe a little bit cliche because I think a lot of people that are on reality television, they get asked similar questions because there's lots of people out there that would love to be on reality TV. But I think the biggest thing is be yourself. Because I think when we watch reality television, there's a lot of people that are trying to maybe ham it up a little bit for the cameras. They're a little bit aware that the cameras are there and what might get them screen time and so forth. But I think that shows through, and I think authenticity is a big part of it. Definitely going into any kind of casting process, be yourself in the casting process, and then if that manages to get you through to actually being cast on a television show, then that's what they're going to want to see. And there's a reason that they cast you because of that authenticity. So that I think that's a big part of it.
Fantastic answer. So we're continuing on, and I'm calling this the Alex Boylan rabbit hole. He's chapter 1 in the book. And so we're trying to bring in people that have had a significant part in his life, in his career, and help really frame who he is and why he would have answered. So I want to start with number one, your connection to Alex and how you two know each other.
Yeah. So he won the season 2 of Amazing Race. And actually, I'll tell you a funny story. This has happened a few times. When people meet the two of us and we're introduced and somebody will say, oh, Alex won season 2 of Amazing Race and Brennan won season 1. People be like, well, that's amazing. You guys are friends and you both managed to win the show. I'm like, well, the reason we met is because we were on the show. So it was when season 2 aired, I remember going and watching the premiere with production. We were at that time it was just the season 1 cast, and it really felt like we were part of production. Nowadays so many people have cycled through the different seasons. I'm sure it's not the same, but went and watched the premiere, and a couple weeks later, got an email from Tara of Tara and Will, the team that finished second, and of course Alex ended up dating Tara for a while after the show, and she introduced or invited Rob and I to come watch an episode with them, and so went and watched. I don't remember exactly what episode it was, but it was probably about. It was early in the season, so probably episode 4, episode 5, and that's where I got to meet Alex and his partner Chris. And they had just moved to LA. And as a matter of fact, Chris lived literally like 2 blocks down the street. And we became fast friends. Of course, didn't know they were going to be the winners until we all watched the finale. And since then, 25 years later, Alex and I are still super close. Now it's actually Alex that lives about 2 blocks down the street from me. I mean, I literally can look that direction, and Alex's place is right over there. So we've remained friends the entire time. We have a lot in common, just being, I guess, adventurous guys who I watched a little bit of his episode that like to get uncomfortable, get out of our comfort zone and so forth. And yeah, he's a great guy, and we've remained friends now for 25 years. And what's cool is a lot of people are like, oh, you met because you were on this reality TV show, and maybe you think it's cool because it's somebody else who had their little 15 minutes of fame. And that's true. I've met tons of people from different reality shows, but it kind of shakes out to those people who remain friends that had you met them in some other circumstance that you would have become friends anyway, despite the reality TV connection.
I think that's an interesting point because reality TV, like a lot of industries, but certainly reality TV, gets a bad stigma. It's just another reality star. Like you said, you were college educated, you were already a lawyer, you were out doing a lot of amazing things already before the Amazing Race. And so when you look at the I guess the swatch of people that are out there that go into this, I think the people that have their 15 minutes of fame, maybe they do kind of embellish a little bit for the camera and do what they need to have their moment. But the ones that really are authentic people that bring value, not just in racing or being on TV, those are the ones that go off to continue to do amazing things. Alex and I talked about it. Maybe it's because you're getting a bunch of A-type personalities together, and a lot of them will continue to go on. but it's the people that are authentic and in it for the right reasons. I think those are the ones that you're going to continue to see who do well, and the ones it seems like you're friends with, like Chris, who now lives, I won't say 2 blocks from me, but he's here in Jacksonville. We're going to have him on the show. Schroeder, people like that who, again, are talented in their own way, and they just happen to have a little bit of fame and a little bit of fortune on some of these reality shows.
Well, what's interesting about it is I think there's a few different reasons why people get cast on reality shows. You've always got to have the villain. You've got to have, I don't know if you want to say the heroes, but maybe the likable people or likable characters, because you do become a little bit of a character based on how you're edited, especially like on Amazing Race. We give them, it was 30, I think our season took 31, 32 days. So it's a month worth of material, and they've got to distill that down to 13 1-hour episodes. And of course, every episode can be about 11 teams at the beginning. So they're only showing a little clip of each. So you become a bit of a character, of course. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of people who are cast on the shows because casting knows they're going to be a train wreck. Let's be honest, because people love watching those train wrecks. But then there are people who are going to be maybe. What's interesting with Amazing Race, they've only done a few all-star seasons. They've never done an all-winners edition. And in fact, in the any seasons where they have brought back people, they've only brought back one set of winners. And my theory on that is because on Amazing Race, you make your own luck, meaning you get eliminated because you're the last place team. It's not because you get voted off, because on Survivor, Big Brother, shows like that where you're getting voted off, one of the strongest characters might get voted off early. On Amazing Race, it's all on your own merit. For the most part, yes, of course, there's luck and so forth. But so I think the cream rises to the top. And a lot of the teams that have won haven't made the best reality television because they're not the train wrecks. And so I think that's a reason why they haven't done an all winners edition. Now, I will say, because I would love to do one, now that they've got, what are we on, season 39? That's a lot of winning teams. If you only want to cast 11 or 12, you could come up with some pretty good teams to make that all winners edition.
I think maybe what you do is you have like the train wrecks in one season and then all the just great winners, and it's more like watching an Ironman, right? Like you're purely watching for competition, not necessarily the entertainment value and the side stories.
There you go.
All right, so Brennan, you actually mentioned it, which was great, Alex, and thank you for mentioning his episode, Alex, and his chapter talking about those who are comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's really a theme that continues to play out through the book and through this show. And so I do want to ask you a little bit about that, because it's not just, again, the 30 whatever days you were racing around the world. You've done adventure races, you've done BMX racing, you've done a lot of things. So talk to me a little bit about, his answer and your view on people who are okay being comfortable, and not that that's a bad thing, but those who want more, just they have this burning desire just to continue to move.
It's a good question, and it's really hard to quantify it, I think, when it comes just to, I don't know, personality types and things like that. For me personally, travel, adventure, it's just what excites me. It makes me feel alive. And I'm a lawyer, so I sit at a desk all day long, and that can be a little boring, I guess we'll say, and a little repetitive. Not that I don't like what I do, but I certainly don't wake up every day and say, yeah, I can't wait to get to the office. And so become a little bit of a weekend warrior with some of the things that I do, and that is what it's what excites me. It's what makes me feel alive, and it's also what helps me grow. And I think getting out of your comfort zone like that is what helps you grow, because when you go to do something that is uncomfortable, you learn, hey, I really like that. And then you develop skills, and then all of a sudden you become comfortable with that. And it's like, okay, now what else am I going to do? And Amazing Race gave me a lot of those opportunities. You mentioned adventure racing. I was able to get into that because of being on Amazing Race. I had there were some charities that I had worked with, and a guy that worked for one of the charities, he said, hey, we're sponsoring this adventure racing series, and we'd like to put together a team of all reality show winners. I was like, I'm in. I didn't know what it meant. I mean, I hiked and I mountain biked, but nothing extreme, I guess we'll say. And Next thing you know, I'm training to go adventure racing. And for those that don't know what adventure racing is, I like to call it it's like a rugged triathlon, but done in a team. So instead of running, cycling, and swimming, it is mountain biking, trail running, usually some kind of paddling, whether it's kayaking, canoeing, and there's orienteering involved often. So you've got to have a compass, you get maps trying to figure out how to get there, and you do it in a team. So the team aspect of it is what makes it fun, builds camaraderie, and it was a great opportunity for me. And once I did that through the charity, got out of my comfort zone for sure. It led me into wanting to do more and more of those types of adventurous type things.
And I think you made a really good point is, being able to get out there, and Alex talked about it. We actually did a clip just recently. Is like, taking that first step, knowing you're going to suck and it's going to be terrible and you're going to feel like a baby all over again in a lot of ways. But we always talk about, well, but then you become great and then you get to go do adventure races. But I think on the other side of that, you also get to learn what you don't know or what you don't like, right? So like if you got out there and you did it and it's like just not your thing, at least you know that instead of going maybe one day. Like that is definitely on my bucket list because I've done some Ironman stuff and ultra running and all that. And yes, I like to hike and surf and all, but I've never done a true adventure race. And I watched the one Alex helped produce, the world's toughest race. And I'm watching Fiji going, I think I could do this, but I have no idea if I could actually do it because I haven't taken that first step. And I may hate it. I may be terrible, but I have no idea.
The one thing I did like that I did, it was on the bucket list, was run a marathon, and running on the street. I did the New York City Marathon, which is obviously an awesome one to do. It was an incredible experience, but afterwards I was like, okay, check. Don't need to do that one again. Now, if it was a trail race maybe that involved 26 miles, that maybe I'd do again, but just kind of the monotony of just running on the street for whatever reason, that one in the end didn't excite me that much.
It is just straight punishment. Yes, you're absolutely right. Trails, you get the breaks. It's a different vibe. I was talking to a guy just yesterday about it. I'm like, man, there's quesadillas on the, at the aid stations. It's totally different, so much, much different. So, all right. So Brennan, I appreciate the conversation so far. And I love that we hit on Alex's answer so far, but I want to hear yours. So Brennan Swain, there are two types of people in this world. What are they?
For me, I would say the two different types of people are the people who are on time and those who are always late. And I think that's easy to figure out, but I think that plays into a lot of different aspects of life, not just being on time and showing up late, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand with procrastination versus getting things done, and being competitive maybe and not as competitive. I think there's a lot of different aspects. For me, I'm always on time. I'm the kind of person that has difficulty showing up fashionably late for a party. I try to get there late, but I'm still one of the first people to arrive. But I think at the same time, that's translated to a lot of positive things in my life. Now, that's not to say, I have friends who maybe are habitually late. Doesn't mean they're not successful. Doesn't mean that they're, in fact, a lot of times I find some of my friends who are the ones that are late, they get there and they're the life of the party. But at the same time, they've made everybody else wait. It's cost a lot of other people time, and that's when, as soon as I thought about it, that's what I came up with. That there was not a whole lot of thinking about that one.
If you're going to be the chronically late person, you've got to overcompensate and be the life of the party once you get there to make everyone kind of calm down, right? I love that because we've had, this is a 4-year project at this point. By the time the book releases in August, and over 100 interviews, and we've not had a single answer that's been the same. We've certainly had themes throughout, but no direct answer that's been the same.
That's amazing, to be honest. I honestly thought, I'm like, oh, somebody else has probably said this before. Yeah.
Oh, no. And so what's great about it is, yes, to your point, it's very straightforward. I won't name names of people in my life, but yes, there are people that I know are going to be 10 minutes early. Back here's for Alex Boylan, dolphin time is what we call it at JU. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late, the old, military stuff. But those who are going to be early, those will be right on time, and then habitually late. Doesn't make them good, bad, whatever. It's just who they are. But then you took it deeper and said, but this is more about time management. It's about, you know, respect for other people and their time. So it explain a little bit more because I'm interested into why you answered this way because yes, it's direct, but I think there's more to this for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can relate it once again to Amazing Race. Um, During casting, one of the questions they asked us was if only one of you could do the race, which of you would it be? And I think the reason for that question was trying to figure out, well, who's going to be the team leader on this one? And both of us answered me. Now, Rob is just as on time as I am. I will say that. But for me, I'm very competitive, and I think part of being on time is being is maybe being the winner, I guess, getting there first. And so I think that in the fact that Rob is an on-time person as well, he's also competitive. I think that's what played into us doing so well on the race. Every episode, there was only one episode I think where we were kind of towards the back of the pack. We were always towards the front. And I think just the organizational skills and things that you develop for being an on-time person. And I mean, obviously, as a lawyer, I have a lot of meetings, so it's just something that you learn. But a lot of it gets instilled from our parents. And for me, both of my parents were always on time for everything, if not early. And I think that that led into their success. My father started a small business when he was in his late 30s, and that business did well. And we went from my mom making our clothes when we were kids to by the time I was graduating high school and going into college, we were I guess we'll say hitting upper middle class. And part of that was my dad's I guess just, well, first stick to itiveness, because at the beginning, things weren't that easy, as they are often in small businesses. But then it was also just the fact that he was able to maintain his kind of daily schedule and daily routine, and that was something that he instilled in me, and that's kind of what made me an on-time person.
As you're sitting there talking, I can equate it to, the advice of make your bed in the morning or wake up at the same time every day, your routine. It's just one of those things like if your life's a mess and you're trying to dig out and you're going, I can't figure out my nutrition, finance, everything's kind of falling apart. Maybe start with one thing, and that's just showing up when you're supposed to be there.
It's true, and you're right. The routine, the getting up the same time every morning, having that routine, and even things like how clean your house is. I think all of that. It's the same type of people that are on time are also the same type of people that tend to be a little bit more tidy, I guess we'll say. And as I say all this, it makes me think like, well, someone's going to think, well, my place isn't that clean. What does that mean? I'm a bad person? Like I said at the beginning, everybody has their faults. Doesn't mean necessarily because you don't make your bed every morning, because you don't clean all the time, that you're slacking, I guess we'll say. But I think on the opposite, the people who do have those good habits, I think that does set them apart.
I mean, I don't know anyone that has great habits that is doing poorly in life and is, falling apart, right? Like this is not the blueprint. The book's not telling you how to live your life. These are people's experiences and what's worked and what's not worked for them. And, I'm not one, sometimes I'll, throw the sheets back on, but I'm not a make your bed in the morning type person. I get up early, try to work out. Like I've got my thing, but to your point, like if you have a routine and you can stick to it, chances are things will go all right for you. But if you don't, you're just rolling the dice and hoping for the best. Absolutely. All right, well, Brennan, I've got just a few more questions for you as we wrap this up. Number one is I like to think of this project going so well that one day we'll have a Two Types Hall of Fame, and you would certainly be in that. So if you can imagine yourself walking through the halls and we get to your exhibit and we've got a big display there and we have one personal item of yours that is uniquely yours, what would your relic be?
This how well you can see it there. So it's been for a while. It was in storage, so it's kind of beat up. But what this is, uh, it is a hat that I wore on Amazing Race. It became really famous on Amazing Race. Back in those days, there were no, it wasn't Facebook groups or there's no Reddit. There were website forums that were dedicated to certain television shows, and there was one back then that was called Mighty Big TV, and they recapped the show. There was a moderator who did a recap every week, and then the fans would talk about the show in the forum, and this became known as the hating hat because people hated it. I don't know why. For me, like we said at the beginning, we didn't know what we were going to encounter on the race, so I had to have something that was going to keep the sun off my neck. It was waterproof. You know, there's part of us, meaning me and Rob, we thought we might be, like Indiana Jones type adventures. Now it was adventurous, but we still got to stay in hotels and things like that. So I brought that with me. But the other cool thing about it, if you look up close, is there's writing all over it. And what that is my buddy and I, we each had one of these. And after every leg, we would write down where we had gone, like what country, then what locations, like where we did the tasks, and then also who got eliminated. And so it really made it a collectible. And I actually love collecting. I collected Star Wars paraphernalia since the mid '90s. And my buddy Rob, he actually collects comic books for a couple of nerds, but we knew that these Amazing Race things might be kind of collectible. And so we kind of turned that hat into a collectible. Now, what makes it even more special is I've taken it on a few other adventures since then. So like we talked about 25 years ago. So since then, back in 2020, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Just last year, I hiked to or trekked to Everest Base Camp, and I took this hat on both of those trips. Now, on the Kilimanjaro trip, I actually did start wearing it, and it rained a little bit, and it made a little bit, even though it's all permanent marker, it made a little bit of it run. So I was like, I put it right back in a bag, but I still brought it along with me just to have on the trip. It's now that it's a collectible, it's not something that you want to wear every single day, but it's been a part of a lot of adventures in my life. And so it just has really special meaning to me, obviously, since it started with the Amazing Race and what really helped develop some of the feeling of wanting to be an adventurous person and then taking it along on other adventures since then.
And we've had some really cool relics, artifacts that people have brought on. That's one of the coolest because I remember that hat. You and I talked when we first met setting this up, and I was in college, so that was all the MTV stuff, and it was on during the day, so I'd watch all the time. But when Amazing Race and Survivor came out, it was spanning generations because parents and grandparents were watching this thing, and so I'd come home for breaks and be around family, and I'd see that hat running across the screen, and
hat that I wore and actually crossing the finish line. And so a lot of any publicity pictures, if you search first season of Amazing Race, winners, Brennan, Rob, whatever you search, that's the hat that I'm wearing in all of those pictures.
I'm pretty sure at this point we'll throw a little picture up there when we do the edits on this episode. I'm gonna have to ask you to put it on, but not yet because I don't want to mess your hair up, but maybe at the end because that would be awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for doing that. So the other one I have is music, and this whole project of Two Types is really it started off as a personal pet project and talking to people and just getting their views on life and what's made them successful or not at times. And as it kept going, it became this exploration of humanity. We're looking at duality and when people make decisions, and so as we kept going, music started playing such a big part in this project. And so when I think about music, it's a way that it cements emotions and moments in our lives. And so everyone has that one song, their hype song. So for you, Brennan, if there is one walk-up song that you had anytime you're on stage, anytime you need to get going, what's that song?
That song is The Knights by Avicii. The Knights as in Nights, not medieval knights. And it's a song I've liked for a long time, I guess. Well, first backing up, it's an EDM song. Avicii, the famous DJ who unfortunately passed a few years ago. But I think a lot of people are probably gonna. I thought about other songs, classic rock songs, something from your childhood. But for me, I started to get into EDM or techno, as we used to call it, as part of my travel experience. I realized here in the States, when we go to a club or a restaurant, if they're playing kind of music to get people excited, it's usually hip hop. But the rest of the world, it's EDM or techno. And so traveling to Europe, traveling to South America back in the early 2000s and 2010s, I really started to get into that type of music because it just reminded me of a good time. So I became a fan of Avicii when he first started. But then last year, my father passed. And after a 9-year battle with Alzheimer's, so it was time. It wasn't a bad thing after he got sick. But I talk about Amazing Race instilling adventure, but it really was my father that originally instilled that adventure in me. He took me camping when I was a kid. He drove race cars for years. So he quit when I was probably about 12. But when I was 12 and under, I'd go to the track, get to watch my dad race. He played in bands throughout his whole life. He was an engineer, so he was kind of a nerd as well. But he had this adventurous spirit that he instilled in me, my brother, and sister. And when he passed last year, we had a memorial service, a celebration of life, which is supposed to be kind of fun. And we put together a slideshow, and my sister got to choose a song. Some of my nieces and nephews got to pick some songs, my mother. And the song that I picked for the slideshow was The Nights by Avicii. And the main reason for it, let me click over here so I can read some of the lyrics. It's all about living an adventurous life and doing things that you're going to remember. And some of the lyrics are, one day my father, he told me, son, don't let it slip away. He took me in his arms. I heard him say, when you get older, your wild heart will live for younger days. Think of me if you're ever afraid. One day you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. So that's become my hype song over the last few years because as a fan of Avicii, like I said, but even more so within about the last year and a half since my father passed. And actually, I had also put together a few years ago. Just we'll say I have a YouTube channel. It's just some personal. It's where I kind of put some personal things just to kind of keep them there, since VHS tapes are old and we lose things when we put them on thumb drives and so forth. So it's nothing spectacular. But I created, when my dad first got sick, a video of just pictures of my dad and me with that song in the background. So that's when it officially became my hype song.
That is fantastic. And again, it's a way that no matter where you are, what you're doing, you hear that song, whatever it is for people, and it brings all that emotion right back to you. Fantastic answer. So yeah, what we do is I put those all on a playlist and it's out on Spotify. And so we'll pop that one on there and people can listen to the hype songs. And again, it's not all, hard rock, rap, it's all across the board. Some are very slow. We actually had someone that said, I don't like to be hype all the time. I'm always hype. So when I'm ready to get locked in, I need focus. So, it's just a great way between the two types question, your relic and the song, just to really frame who you are. Your connection to Alex Boylan. So two more things and we'll go back to Alex. And then I do want to talk about the 25th anniversary or 25 years coming up. So, with Alex, and so it's funny, I was doing some research and on one of those like fan wikis or whatever, one of the little factoids about you is that you attended Alex Boylan's wedding. So there you go.
Funny that made it on one of the wikis. I don't think I've seen that, but yeah.
Wasn't at the top, but yeah, it was on there. So, knowing Alex as well and as long as you have, what is your best Alex Boylan story that you can tell on air?
So, I'll tell one that this is going way back, and back to the adventure racing that we were talking about before. I mentioned that the first team that we put together was an all reality television or winners team. Sorry, so there were some of us from Amazing Race, some of us from Survivor. I think at the time, Alex might have been living back in Jacksonville. Whatever it was, he wasn't on that initial team. And so the next year, when we got asked back to the same race, we didn't make it all winners because some of the other winners were good, but they weren't great adventure races, I guess we'll say. So what we did is we plucked a few other guys from one guy from Survivor who was like in top, not in Top Gun, and I don't mean the movie, like the actual program. So he was a super adventurous guy. So anyway, we put together a really good team, and we ended up winning the adventure race the next year, and it was based in the U.S. Well, if you finish in the top 10 in that race, it's a worldwide series of races in Europe, Asia, and in America. And so because we finished, well, we won, but because we finished top 10, we got invited to the World Challenge, it was called. And that was in Malta, it was an island in the Mediterranean, for people who don't know where that is. And one of our guys dropped out. So really about 2 or 3 weeks before we were ready to leave, I called up Alex and I said, hey, free trip to Malta. And, he's still in good shape, adventurous guy, but not a whole lot of time to train mountain biking and trail running and all that good stuff. So he came along, and the way the races worked there, it's teams of 4, but there's actually 5 people on a team, 4 people race in each leg. They were staged races. I mean, they took place over the course of about 3 days. It might be a 5-hour mountain biking leg, a 3-hour trail running leg. And so each leg, a different team member would sit out and the other 4 would race. The very final leg, I was actually the substitute, so I was sitting out. It was a trail run. And what happened is, as you get to the finish line, I link up with the team so you can all cross the finish line together. And the last task we all had to do as a team of 5 was they came running down the beach, and we had to go out in the water and around some buoys, swim around some buoys as a team, and then come back in and cross the finish line by running. So because Alex wasn't in perfect shape because it had taken he didn't have a lot of time to train, he was struggling on the run. And we all know Alex, that he loves to talk. He never shuts up. But the funny thing the other guys said is he was silent during this leg because he was just, in the zone, in his head, running. They get to the point where they link up with me and we go into the water. As soon as that cold water hits Alex, he gets cramps in the back of both legs, basically in his hamstrings. And when he did it, he grabs the back of his leg and he's like, and he couldn't straighten his legs out. So we grabbed him, and because I hadn't been running, I was in better shape than the rest of the guys at this point. So I grabbed him, we put him on his back, somebody else grabbed him by his arms, and we basically swum him around the buoys, and then it managed to subside and we crossed the finish line. Well, what made it extra funny was there was an awards banquet afterwards, and they had a slideshow with pictures throughout the race. They had an amazing picture of Alex grabbing the back of his hamstring and going like this. And it became a joke amongst all of us that there had been a sniper somewhere out there, and that as soon as he hit the water, that the sniper hit him in the back of the leg, because that picture just looked like he had been shot in the back of the leg. So, but he still did a great job, still managed to finish the race. We didn't win the World Challenge. The European teams were amazing. I can't even remember if we were the top U.S. team in that race, but it was a lot of fun. It was good to have Alex along, and just another adventurous story for him.
We've got to find that picture. I don't know if you have a copy.
I feel like we went through this, our friend, like 10 or so years ago, and I think someone may have managed to track it down. It was like someone took a picture of the screen, and this is in like 2007, so cell phone cameras weren't great back then. I'll take a look and see if I can find it. Like I mentioned before, we have pictures on thumb drives or wherever we have them, and you kind of lose them over the years. As great as it is having digital photos, and you have so many more than we did when we were kids, when everything was film, but you tend to lose a lot of photos. So I'm not sure where it is, but I'll see if I can find it, and so maybe you can throw it up right here.
That's fantastic. We will absolutely do that. And Alex, there you go. That's our thank you for bringing us together. We're going to bring that picture back out of the archives for you. What a great story. Thank you, Brennan. That was top notch. And just congrats to you guys. I mean, I know that was a long time ago, but you're right, to be in shape, and anyone that does, if you're in the gym, you try to go run, or you're a runner, you try to swim, like having a multidisciplinary race that you have to get through without training, it's almost impossible. You could be the fittest person in the gym in the world or the best runner, but you get in cold water and you're not used to it. You get on a bike or whatever crazy stuff you guys have to do. So no harm to Alex on that. He got out there and still did a great and finished a world championship race, which is pretty awesome.
I think the one other funny comment about that is the buddies and I, the other guys on the team, we all joked that Alex. I think when I asked him, he said something like, "Well, yeah, I'm doing yoga like 2 or 3 times a week," and so we joked with him like, "Oh, you're definitely ready for an adventure race, doing yoga 2 or 3 times a week."
Right. All right. So, Brennan, my final question for you, if you don't mind putting the hat on for this question, because I got to see it. So, so it's 25 years since, and by the way, let me take 1 second here. If you are listening along to this, please go to YouTube, all the social media. This is the clip of any clip of this episode. Oh, baby, this is it. Brennan is rocking the hat.
The hating hat, as it was known to the fans back then. Yes.
Fantastic story with all the writing on that. Did you write when you went to Kilimanjaro and you took it other places? Totally fold up.
Like you kind of write big, and then you get to leg 2 and you're like, yeah, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I've got to race smaller, especially if I'm going to make it to the end. You don't know at that time, but we literally filled the whole thing.
That is awesome. So with 25 years coming up, talk to me a little bit about what that means to you, first of all, just to see the show continue on, to be part of, I mean, television history. There's no other way to say that. And, is there anything special coming up? There has to be something coming up, with you personally, the network, around this anniversary.
First of all, it amazes me, I guess pun intended, that it's still on the air 25 years later, because there's definitely a time early on where it dropped a little bit in ratings, and it was a little bit on the bubble, as they would say, with CBS and whether they were going to renew it. And once it made it over that hump, it's just been a stalwart. And here we are 25 years later. It amazes me that it's still on the air. And it is the 25th anniversary, which is exciting, I think, for production, for the racers. It's a cool anniversary. At the same time, because they did 2 seasons a year for a long time, now they're down to about 1, but they've got season 39 coming up this fall. So for the fans, Survivor just did Survivor 50, even though for them, this year will be 26 years for them. So it is more about the season number. So I don't know whether I'm going to save this until Amazing Race 40, or which should be maybe sometime next year, or whether I'm going to do it I'm pushing towards doing it this fall. But with it being the 25th anniversary, I've got a lot of paraphernalia, like the hating hat. You can see a little bit. I actually set it up behind me here, behind me there. So I've kind of gotten ready for this, but I'm thinking about doing maybe some live shows where people can rewatch season 1, ask me questions. We can talk about it. I'm definitely at least going to be doing some posting on my Instagram account. I started a TikTok account recently. Some of the paraphernalia that I have, actual paraphernalia from the race, so trinkets, we'll say, and route markers and clues, but then also pictures I've taken over the years with other amazing racers, with people from Survivor, other celebrities, things like that. And so just trying to, I guess we'll say, honor the fact that it's the 25th anniversary of the Amazing Race. So I still haven't come up with exactly what the format is going to be, but I've got my microphone, my setup ready here, and we're going to be doing something sometime soon.
Looking the part, and I can't wait to see what you guys do. Please let me know once you've made a decision. I'm sure our audience, after hearing from you and a lot of Alex's friends and your friends over the next few weeks, as we get ready for the book, that they'll want to tune in and hear from you. Because again, whether you watched, if you were around and alive when it first came out, or you're new to the whole franchise, it's a very special moment. And again, just part of television history. And so to have the guys out there, kind of like they do on like TLC, the pillow talk stuff and things like that, where you can, kind of talk about what you were feeling and what was going on in your head, and, stuff that didn't exactly make it on air. So that's fantastic.
I'm looking forward to it. We'll make it happen. I have to, now that I've got the setup, right?
Okay, so Brennan, once again, thank you so much for coming on, for being a part of this project, for coming on the show. Where can people connect with you personally, professionally? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So personally, luckily having a name like Brennan, all of my social media handles are just Brennan Swain. So Instagram at Brennan Swain, TikTok at Brennan Swain, Twitter at Brennan Swain. So that's where you can find me if you want to get ready for the 25th anniversary or Amazing Race Season 40, whichever way I decide to go. And then professionally, on that I'd say just Google me. It would bring up the law firm that I work for, their website. But that's I'm a patent lawyer, so let me know if you have anything you need.
From what I know and what I could find, a very experienced one, obviously in it a long time, but like I said in the very beginning, I think you've done over 1,000, patents and trademarks filed for. So certainly, if you're someone in business that has a need, Brennan's the guy to call.
That's right.
All right. Well, Brennan, thank you. We're going to wrap it up. Another episode of Two Types. Please share this with people that you love and you think may be interested in hearing from Brennan and learning about the Amazing Race and what his two types of people are. Until next time,